Tyler had 14 minutes to find a place to sit in a courtyard full of 300 students who had decided he did not exist. He had been homeless for 8 months. He wore shoes held together with duct tape. His hands shook from being hungry. All he wanted was to eat lunch without being invisible. What happened when he finally sat at the only table people stayed away from would bring together 190 Hell's Angels and show a system that failed a child in every way. Before we go on, remember Tyler was invisible to the teachers, the counselors, and the system meant to save him. But he was visible to 190 bikers who just chose to look. Subscribe because every Tyler is waiting for someone to notice they are drowning. And in the comments, if you would have stopped for Tyler, just type I see you. Let's show the world that this community never looks away. Can I sit here? I knew Road King. Those 7 words were all Tyler Kowalski could say before his voice broke. His hands shook so badly the lunch tray shook. It had a square of sticky pizza, a bruised apple, a milk carton, and a plastic fork. It was everything he had gotten with the $347 he had collected from returning bottles that morning. The man looking up at him was huge. He was 6 feet 3 inches tall and weighed 240 pounds of muscle and leather. He had a gray-streaked beard and a scar cutting through his left eyebrow. His black vest had patches that made most people cross to the other side of the street. Hell's Angels, Sergeant-at-Arms, Ridgeview Chapter. His name was James Sullivan. His road name was Reaper. And right now he was looking at Tyler's face like he had seen a ghost. Tyler had not meant to end up here. He had not meant to go to the one table in Ridgeview Regional High School's outdoor courtyard that everyone stayed away from. But he had already tried 4 other groups, and the no's were piling up like bills he could not pay. The football players first. Tyler's old teammates back when he could pay the $340 equipment fee. Back before his stepfather Richard locked him out of the house 8 months ago and everything fell apart. "Table's full, man," Jake had said loud enough for everyone to hear. 3 empty chairs. Tyler saw Jake's eyes look at Tyler's duct-taped shoe, at the rope holding up his jeans, at the big navy hoodie that used to fit his father. Then Jake put his backpack on the empty seat on purpose. The Honor Society kids next. Sarah, his lab partner from last year, would not even look up from her phone. "Sorry, Tyler. We're working on a group project," Emma had said. They were not. They were talking about weekend plans. Someone said quietly, "Smells like car," as he walked away. Tyler's face felt hot. He tried to shower at the school gym that morning, but security chased him out. It had been 4 days since his last real wash. The anti-bullying club after that. 3 sophomore girls wearing kind t-shirts. Melissa stood up the second she saw him coming. We're actually about to leave. There were 15 minutes left in lunch period. I heard he got expelled for fighting, one whispered. Tyler heard it. Probably dangerous. They left their trash on the table and walked away. But the worst no came from the adults. 4 teachers sat at a table near the courtyard doors. Mrs. Cage taught character education. Coach Roberts led the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Mr. Martinez sponsored the service club. Mrs. Patterson was the counselor who had helped Tyler 3 months ago by calling CPS, only to have Richard charm the caseworker into closing the case. Tyler did not go to them. He just stood nearby with his tray, hoping someone would notice. He hoped an adult might show one bit of the values they taught in their classrooms. Mrs. Cage looked him in the eye. Tyler saw her recognize him. She turned to the others and whispered something. Coach Roberts looked over and shook his head. Mrs. Patterson stared hard at her salad. Then Mrs. Cage called out, "Tyler, student tables are over there." She pointed away. Then quieter, but not quiet enough. "We can't enable his behavior. He needs to learn. Consequences for his choices." Tyler's hands went numb. The tray felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Sometimes tough love means letting them face reality," Mrs. Cage continued. His mother should have thought about this before letting him act out. Tyler's mother had not let him do anything. Richard Morrison had changed the locks while they were gone. He told the neighbors Tyler was a runaway on drugs. He scared Tyler's mom so much she was too afraid to fight back. But the adults teaching kindness, faith, and service did not care about those details. That's when Tyler noticed the 3 men at the corner table. The table by the west wall. The table no one else wanted because these men looked dangerous. Leather vests, patches, tattoos showing under short sleeves, visitor badges clipped to their vests. They were not students. They were not teachers. But they were here having lunch from Mel's roadside diner takeout boxes. They were speaking in low tones. Tyler saw the patch on the back of the nearest vest as the man shifted. Hell's Angels Ridgeview Chapter. The same patch his father had worn every day until a semi-truck driver fell asleep on Interstate 77 and Tyler's whole world broke. It was August 12, 2024, 17 months ago. Tyler had been 13 years old. Good. I'm building the scene following the template. I need to show the rejections. Done. For groups. Show Tyler's deterioration. Clothing. Physical state. Establish the setting clearly. Build toward the plea moment. Keep paragraphs short, 1 to 3 sentences. Include sensory details. Let me continue with Tyler approaching the table and the plea moment. Then transition into stage 2 with the mobilization and promise. Tyler's feet moved before his brain caught up. 47 feet across concrete. Each step making that special tap-scrape sound where his right sole had separated. His father's hoodie, size XXL, drowning Tyler's shrinking frame, had a small patch on the left sleeve. In memory of Road King. Road King. That's what the club had called Marcus Kowalski, Tyler's dad. Best man Tyler had ever known. Tyler stopped at the table's edge. The big man, Reaper, though Tyler did not know that yet, looked up. His eyes went from Tyler's face to the memorial patch, then down to Tyler's hands. White-knuckled on the tray, shaking, then to Tyler's shoes. Duct tape wrapped twice around the right one, then back to Tyler's eyes, and something changed in the man's expression. Recognition, then something that looked like pain. Can I sit here? Tyler whispered. His throat was so tight. I knew Road King. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Reaper stood up. All 6 feet 3 inches of him unfolding like a storm building. He stepped around the table in one smooth motion, and Tyler flinched. He could not help it. Months of Richard's shoves and grabs had changed his instincts. But Reaper did not hit him. He took the tray from Tyler's shaking hands and set it gently on the table. Then he did what no one had done in 8 months. He put both hands on Tyler's shoulders. Firm, solid, unmovable. You're Road King's boy, Reaper said. His voice was rough but kind. You're safe now. Tyler's shoulders started shaking. 8 months of holding everything together and 7 words from a stranger broke the dam. How long you been out here alone, son? Reaper's voice dropped lower, meant only for Tyler. His right hand moved from shoulder to the back of Tyler's neck, the exact same way Tyler's dad used to do it. Protective family. Tyler knew the gesture right away and felt his father in it. Sit, one of the other bikers said, pulling out a chair. He was younger, maybe mid-30s, with kind eyes. You're with us now. The third biker, older, gray beard, was already on his phone, stepping away, making calls. Tyler sat and stared at his pizza slice. He could not look up. 8 months, he whispered. I've been living in my car. My stepdad locked me and my mom out. She had to go back. She had nowhere else. But I just could not. So, I've been trying to keep going to school, but they expelled me 3 weeks ago. Why'd they expel you? Reaper asked. He had not let go of Tyler's shoulder. I was defending this kid, 7th grader, nonverbal. These 3 guys were messing with him in the hallway, and I just could not let them. Tyler's voice broke. Dad always said, protect people who can't protect themselves. But zero tolerance means zero tolerance. It does not matter why. So now I can't even eat school lunch anymore. The younger biker swore softly. Kid got expelled for doing the right thing. What's your name, son? Reaper asked. Tyler. Tyler Kowalski. He pulled at the memorial patch on his sleeve. Road King was my dad. He died 17 months ago.
Motorcycle accident.
Then Richard, my stepdad, he moved in 4 months after the funeral and everything just went wrong. Reaper's jaw tightened. His hand on Tyler's shoulder squeezed gently. Your daddy was my brother, Reaper said. Served with him in Iraq 2007. January convoy ambush. I took shrapnel. Road King pulled me out while bullets were still coming. I'm alive because of Marcus Kowalski, and I swore at his funeral I'd watch over you and your mama. Should have checked on you sooner. That's on me. Tyler looked up for the first time. Reaper's eyes were wet. But I'm here now, Reaper continued. And you're not sleeping in a car tonight. You're not going hungry again. You understand me? Tyler could not speak. He could only nod. Why'd your stepdad lock you out? The younger biker asked. His name tag said visitor, but his vest said torch in embroidered letters. Tyler's hands twisted in his lap. He's been hurting my mom sometimes. Not where people can see. And he hit me a few times before we left. He sold Dad's motorcycle, took all Dad's stuff, said I needed to get over Dad. Then one day I found papers in his office. Insurance stuff. Huge numbers, like hundreds of thousands. And when I asked him about it, he shoved me into the wall and told me to mind my business. 3 days later, he changed the locks when Mom and I came home from school. Reaper went very still. What papers? What insurance? Tyler pulled out his phone. Old flip phone, cracked screen, but it worked. His hands were shaking worse now as he pulled up a voice memo. For weeks ago, I recorded him. Tyler's voice dropped to barely a whisper. He was walking with his friend Mark. They'd been drinking. I was sleeping in my car 2 blocks from the house. I heard them talking. He pressed play. Richard Morrison's voice came through. Tiny but clear. Kid's been nothing but problems. Ellen keeps crying about him. Wanted to let him back in. Had to put my foot down. Pause. Footsteps on concrete. You know the best part? In about 11 more months, he's 16. I can legally cut ties. No more support obligation. Ellen will get over it. Pause. Lighter flicking. Almost $1 million, Mark. Can you believe it? Road King saves and scrimps for his family, dies, and I get the payday. Kid doesn't even know the money exists. Another voice, Mark Fletcher. Jesus, Rick, I know he was a jerk to you, but the kid's homeless. The kid's got his mother. Not my problem. I put in my time, tried the stepfather thing. Didn't work out. Marcus' mistake was trusting Ellen would manage money. My victory was being smart enough to get my name on papers. In this world, you either take opportunity or opportunity takes you. Pause. Car door opening. Besides, kid's got his dad's brothers he can run to. Let the criminal biker gang help him. Natural selection, Mark. Weak don't survive. The recording ended. The silence at the table was total. Tyler could not look at any of them. Torch was the first to speak. How much did he say? 950,000. Tyler whispered. That money was supposed to be for me and Mom for college for life. And he spent it, bought a Corvette, remodeled the house, goes to the casino every week. And he said. Tyler's voice broke completely. He's just waiting for me to turn 16 so he can cut me loose. I think he's waiting for me to die and nobody believes me. I've tried. CPS, police, school. Everyone thinks he's this great guy and I'm just the troubled kid. Tyler finally looked up. Maître Reapers. But I have proof. I have the recording. Reaper's eyes were not just wet anymore. Full tears tracked down his weathered face into his gray-streaked beard. He had not cried since his daughter Sarah died 16 years ago. He stood up and pulled Tyler into a one-armed hug. Tyler's face against his chest. Same way Marcus used to hug him after Little League games. Your dad saved my life, Reaper said, voice steel and gravel. And I swore I'd watch over you. Richard Morrison's done. He doesn't know it yet, but his life as he knows it ended the second you sat at this table. You're Road King's blood. That makes you our blood. We protect our own. Reaper extended his right hand, forearm up. The warrior grip Marcus had taught Tyler when he was 9. Tyler gripped back. The third biker, the older one with the gray beard, returned from his phone call. President's on his way, he said. His name was document former combat medic, Vietnam vet. Bringing everyone. And I called Badge. He'll know how to handle the legal side. He looked at Tyler. Badge used to be a detective with Ridgeview PD, retired now, but he still knows which judges are honest and which ones owe favors. Reaper pulled out his own phone. Tyler watched him dial. 3 rings, then Ironside, it's Reaper. Pause. I need every brother within 50 miles at Ridgeview Regional High School. Now, the gravity in that pause was like a held breath. Then the voice on the other end. What's going on? Road King's son is homeless, starving, and his stepdad stole damn near $1 million in insurance money. Got the kid's confession on tape. We're not waiting for the cops to take their time on this one. Say no more. We're coming. The line went dead. Reaper looked at Tyler. How many brothers you think your daddy rode with over the years? Tyler shook his head. Didn't know. 190, Reaper said. And every single one of them is about to hear that Road King's boy needs help. You watch what happens next. Now, you might be thinking a Hell's Angel finds out about a kid in trouble and his first move is violence. Maybe you're imagining fists, threats, chaos. That's not this story. Because what Tyler did not know yet was that Reaper was not just muscle. He volunteered at Children's Hospital every Thursday. He had since his daughter died. He'd sponsored 4 little league teams. He paid for 3 different kids' surgeries without telling anyone. And Doc was not just a biker. He was a combat medic who had saved 18 lives in Vietnam. He'd see the signs of not eating enough in Tyler's face, the bruises fading on his arms, and know exactly how to write it down for court. Torch was not just young and tech-savvy. He was the one who would make sure Tyler's story got told right. He would write down everything so carefully that no lawyer could twist it. And Ironside, the club president, he was not just a leader. He was a former Marine Corps captain with connections that ran deep in this community. When he spoke, people listened. But Tyler did not know any of that yet. All he knew was that for the first time in 8 months, someone had claimed him as family. When did you eat last? Doc asked, sitting down across from Tyler. Yesterday, school lunch. But I got expelled 3 weeks ago, so Tyler looked at his tray. This is the first real food I've had in 4 days. Doc's face went hard. He pulled out his wallet and handed Tyler 2 20s. Eat. Then we're taking you to a doctor. I don't have insurance. Don't care, Doc said. You're Road King's son. You're covered. Tyler stared at the money. $40. More than he'd held at once in 2 months. Eat, Reaper said gently. And tell us everything, every detail about Richard, about what happened, about who you tried to get help from. We need to know what we're walking into. So Tyler told them about Richard marrying his mom 13 months after his dad died. About how Richard seemed okay at first, then started getting controlling. Started criticizing Dad, selling Dad's stuff, keeping them away from Dad's friends. About how Tyler found the insurance papers 6 months into the marriage. How Richard lost it when Tyler asked questions. How 3 days later, Tyler and his mom came home to changed locks and Richard standing in the doorway saying, "You want to ask questions about my business? You can do it from somewhere else." About how his mom had nowhere to go, no job, no money. Richard controlled everything. How she was too scared to fight him. How she went back to stay with Richard but sneaks Tyler food when she can. Maybe $80 a month, not enough. About sleeping in the 2003 Honda Civic behind Riverside Plaza Shopping Center. About the school nurse writing down his weight loss, 31 pounds in 8 months. About the nurse saying he was at risk for organ damage within weeks if nothing changed and nobody did anything. About calling CPS 3 months ago. About the caseworker believing Richard's lies. Closing the case after Richard showed fake text messages from Tyler and called him a runaway. About his mom trying to file a restraining order about the judge dismissing it because the house was in Richard's name only. Civil property dispute, not domestic violence. About telling the assistant principal he had no food. About Mr. Henderson giving him $20 from his own wallet but never filing an official report. Work it out with your parents. Family matters stay in family. About his Aunt Rebecca in Montana calling CPS 2 days ago. About CPS calling Richard to check. About Richard convincing them his sister-in-law was a troublemaker causing drama. About CPS telling Aunt Rebecca she'd face harassment charges if she kept calling. System failed you 4 times, Doc said quietly. For documented failures. What's Richard's full name? Torch asked. He had his phone out already typing. Richard Dale Morrison. He's regional sales director for Midwest Industrial Supply. Makes like $130,000 a year plus bonuses. He's on the Rotary Club board, church usher, sponsors youth baseball. Everyone thinks he's this great guy. Of course they do, Reaper muttered. Always the ones who look good in public. Let me tell you something about your daddy, Reaper said. He pulled out his wallet and showed Tyler a photo. Marcus in uniform, arm around Reaper, both of them covered in desert dust, both grinning. This was taken 2 days before that ambush. Your dad saw the danger before anyone else did. Saw the IED position, started yelling for everyone to scatter. I was slow. Shrapnel got me in the leg, my back, and while everyone else was taking cover, your dad ran into the kill zone and dragged me out. Reaper's voice got rough. 17 stitches in my leg, another 12 in my back. Your dad stayed with me the whole medevac ride, holding my hand, telling me stupid jokes so I wouldn't pass out. Saved my life. And when we got stateside, when he came to my hospital room, you know what he said? Tyler shook his head. That's what brothers do. Like it was nothing. Like running into gunfire was just Tuesday. Reaper looked at Tyler hard. Your dad protected people who couldn't protect themselves. Taught you the same thing, didn't he? Yeah, Tyler whispered. That's why I defended that kid. The one who got me expelled. His name's Danny. He's nonverbal, scared of everything. And these 3 seniors were shoving him into a locker, calling him names, and I just couldn't stand there and watch. Dad wouldn't have. Your daddy would be so proud of you, Doc said, and so furious at what's been done to you. How much time we got before Tyler's supposed to be somewhere? Reaper asked. Tyler laughed, bitter and hollow. Nowhere.
I'm expelled.
I got nowhere to be. Wrong, Reaper said. You're coming with us and we're about to make some calls that are going to change everything. The rumble started low, like distant thunder on the horizon. Then it grew into a roar that shook windows and set off car alarms 3 blocks away. By 4:30 that afternoon, 190 motorcycles lined the streets around Ridgeview Regional High School in perfect formation. Chrome shining in the November sun, leather and patches, disciplined rows that stretched from the main entrance all the way down Lakewood School Drive to the intersection. Not a protest fueled by anger. Peaceful stand. Tyler stood on the sidewalk outside the school's main office with Reaper's hand still on his shoulder. He watched them arrive. First, the Ridgeview chapter. 47 bikes. Every member who wasn't at work had dropped everything. Then Columbus chapter rolled in 52 strong. Cleveland brought 43. Canton brought 48. The formation pulled out in disciplined rows, tight, smooth, practiced from years of riding together. They parked one by one in the overflow lot across the street. Engines died in waves until only silence remained. 190 bikers stood there, not moving, not shouting, simply present. And in that silence, Tyler felt something shift. The weight of being invisible, of being rejected, of being erased. It lifted because 190 men and women were standing there for one reason. Road King's son needed help. I know what you might be imagining, Reaper said quietly to Tyler. Big scary bikers rolling up to a school, fists ready. That's not what this is. You watch. Ironside stepped forward. Robert Cage, 58 years old, club president for 23 years, former Marine Corps captain. He wore his dress leather, the vest saved for official business, and he moved with the bearing of a man who had commanded troops in combat. He walked straight to the school's main entrance. Reaper, Doc, Torch, and 2 others followed. The rest stayed by their bikes, waiting. Principal Dr. Susan Walsh met them at the door. Tyler could see her through the glass, see her eyes widen, see her hand move toward her phone. Ma'am, Ironside said. His voice carried authority that made people stand straighter without meaning to. My name is Robert Cage. I'm president of the Ridgeview Hells Angels. We're here on behalf of Tyler Kowalski, and we need to talk about what's been happening to that boy. Dr. Walsh's hand hovered over her phone. This is highly irregular. You can't just we can and we are, Ironside said, not aggressive, just factual. Tyler was expelled 3 weeks ago for defending a special needs student from assault, while he's been homeless, starving, and documenting abuse. And your staff knew. Dr. Walsh's face went pale. I don't know what you've been told, but we've been told the truth. Badge spoke up. Tommy Morrison, no relation to Richard, 49 years old, 20 years as a detective with Ridgeview PD before retirement. He still wore his bearing like a uniform. And we've got documentation, medical records showing malnutrition, CPS reports showing failed interventions, and a recorded confession from the stepfather admitting to insurance fraud and intent to abandon a minor. Badge held up a folder. We can do this easy or hard. Easy is you let us in. We review what happened and we work together to fix this. Hard as we go to the superintendent, the school board, the county prosecutor, and the local news, all of whom we've already contacted, and we make this a public crisis about how your institution failed a child in danger. Dr. Walsh looked past them, saw 190 people standing in formation, silent, patient. She stepped aside. Commune. What happened over the next 3 hours would become a case study in every child protection training program in the state. Badge took point. He'd made calls from the parking lot while they waited for the chapters to arrive. He'd contacted Judge Patricia Morrison at County Court, no relation to Richard, and she had a reputation for being tough on child abuse cases. He'd reached out to Detective Sarah Chun at Ridgeview PD, someone he'd trained, someone he trusted. He'd called Dr. Elizabeth Warren, the school nurse who documented Tyler's condition before the expulsion. One by one, they arrived at the school. Doc took Tyler to an empty classroom and did a medical check. Former combat medic, he'd seen not eating enough in war zones. He knew the signs. Height 5 feet 8 inches, weight 127 pounds. Doc wrote in neat handwriting. Should be 155 to 160 for healthy BMI. Currently underweight by 28 to 33 pounds. Visible signs. Sunken eyes with dark purple circles showing sleep loss and possible anemia. Cheekbones. Sticking out from recent weight loss. Hands show tremor like low blood sugar and not enough nutrition. He checked the bruises on Tyler's arm. 11 days old based on color change from purple to greenish yellow. Fingerprint pattern like a forceful grip. Bruising on right forearm. Defensive position suggests victim was grabbed while trying to protect himself. Doc took photos of everything. Tyler's duct-taped shoe, his rope belt, the way his father's hoodie hung loose where it should have fit snug. When did you last have a full meal? Doc asked. Like a real meal. 2 months ago. Mom snuck me some pot roast when Richard worked late. Doc wrote that down. Dizzy spells 1 or 2 a day. Worse when I stand up fast. That's your blood pressure dropping. Malnutrition. Doc's jaw tightened. You're in refeeding syndrome risk territory. We get food in you too fast. Could cause heart problems. You need careful medical supervision. He looked Tyler in the eye. In my professional opinion, you're 8 to 13 weeks from organ complications if this continues. You understand what I'm saying? Your body's eating itself to survive. Tyler nodded. He'd known. Just hadn't wanted to think about it. Meanwhile, Badge was in the principal's office pulling records. Tyler filed 3 separate complaints about not having food, Dr. Walsh admitted. 1 to his homeroom teacher, Mr. Henderson, 1 to counselor Mrs. Patterson, 1 to me directly. And what action was taken? Badge asked. Mr. Henderson gave him money from his own wallet. Official report filed. Silence. No official report, Badge said flatly. What about the counselor? Mrs. Patterson called Child Protective Services in August. We know case was closed. Did anyone follow up after CPS left? More silence. So, you had 3 documented complaints from a minor about not having food, Badge said. And your only intervention was $20 from a teacher's wallet and 1 CPS call that went nowhere. Did anyone notice Tyler was losing weight? That he was wearing the same clothes multiple days in a row? That he was falling asleep in class? Dr. Walsh looked at the file. Several teachers noted concerns in their grade reports, but nobody did anything. Badge leaned forward. Let me tell you what failure looks like, Dr. Walsh. It looks like a 15-year-old boy sleeping in a car for 8 months while staff at his school. Adults paid to protect children. Look the other way because it's easier than filling out paperwork. Professor spoke up. Alan Wright, 53, former high school teacher and counselor for 18 years. I've reviewed Tyler's disciplinary file. The incident that led to his expulsion. defending a nonverbal 7th grader named Danny Peterson from 3 senior students is documented. What's not documented is that Danny's parents filed 4 previous complaints about those same 3 students. For complaints over 6 weeks. Nothing was done. He looked at Dr. Walsh. So when Tyler stepped in to stop an assault that your administration had ignored for a month and a half, you expelled him under zero tolerance. The victim got expelled. The bullies got 3 days detention. Dr. Walsh's hands shook. Zero tolerance policy requires discretion for circumstances. Professor cut in. That's in your own district handbook. Page 47. Section 3.2. Self-defense and defense of others can be considered mitigating factors, but that requires someone to care enough to look. Torch was documenting everything. Photos of the files, video of the conversations. He'd already posted to the club's social media, carefully worded, no names, just bringing attention to a situation where a child in need was failed by multiple systems. Within an hour, local news had picked it up. While all this happened, Detective Chun arrived with a warrant. Badge had called in a favor. Judge Morrison had reviewed the recorded confession on Tyler's phone, reviewed Doc's medical documentation, reviewed the school records, and signed emergency paperwork. Search warrant for Richard Morrison's residence at 1847 Pinecrest Avenue. Warrant for Richard Morrison's financial records. Emergency protective order for Tyler and Ellen Kowalski. Detective Chun brought 3 other officers and she brought Louise Hicks with her. Louise, 68 years old, Richard and Ellen's next-door neighbor for 12 years. I saw Tyler grow up, Louise said. Her hands shook as she sat in the principal's conference room giving her statement. Badge recorded every word. Watched Marcus teach him to ride a bike in the driveway. Saw them working on that motorcycle together every weekend. And when Marcus died, her voice broke. That boy was destroyed. Ellen was destroyed. When did Richard Morrison move in? Badge asked. 4 months after the funeral, November 2024. Everything changed so fast. Louise could not meet anyone's eyes. I heard arguments through the walls. Heard Richard yelling at Ellen, at Tyler, heard things breaking. One night last May, I saw Richard physically shove Tyler out the front door. Saw Ellen crying on the porch. Saw Richard change the locks the next day. Did you call anyone? Badge asked gently. Tears ran down Louise's face. No, I told myself it wasn't my business, that I didn't want to get involved, that maybe I was hearing things wrong. But I knew something was wrong, and I stayed silent because it was easier. You're speaking now, Badge said. That matters. Louise pulled out her phone. I took photos last month when I saw Tyler sleeping in his car behind the shopping center. I didn't know what to do with them, so I just kept them. She showed Badge. Tyler curled in the back seat of the Honda. Emergency blanket pulled up to his chin. November frost on the windows. Badge added the photos to evidence. Sandra Price came next, 54 years old, former member of Ridgeview Community Church, where Richard was an usher and Bible study co-leader. I noticed how Richard acted around Ellen. Sandra said controlling, always had his hand on her arm, steering her away from conversations. She stopped participating in women's group, stopped smiling, and when I tried to reach out to her privately, Richard found out somehow. She took a shaky breath. He convinced Pastor Mike that I was causing division in the church, that I was spreading gossip. The pastor asked me to leave. I've been going to a different church for 6 months now. But I should have fought harder. I should have made someone listen. Did you see Richard interact with Tyler? Badge asked. Once Tyler came to a church function right after Marcus died. Richard pulled him aside. I saw it through the fellowship hall window. Richard had Tyler's arm in a grip that looked painful. Tyler's face. He looked scared. I told myself I was reading too much into it, but I wasn't. Then Detective Chun returned from 1847 Pinecrest Avenue. Found the insurance documents, she said. Filing cabinet in Richard's home office. Key was right in his desk drawer. He didn't think anyone would ever look. She laid out the papers on the conference table. Tyler sat beside Reaper watching. Life insurance policy on Marcus Kowalski Chun read. Combined SGLI and private policy. Total death benefit $950,000. Original beneficiary Ellen Kowalski. She pulled out another document. Beneficiary change form dated February 19, 2024, 6 months after Marcus's death, 2 months after Richard married Ellen. Ellen's signature notarized new beneficiary Richard Dale Morrison. My mom doesn't remember signing that, Tyler said. Richard had her sign a bunch of papers. Told her it was household stuff. She was still so depressed after Dad died. She just signed whatever he put in front of her. Sounds like fraud, Chin said grimly. Badge pulled out another document. And look at this. Found it in the same folder. Insurance policy on Richard's first wife, Catherine Morrison, died March 2020 of what the death certificate says was complications from pneumonia. Policy paid out $180,000. The room went silent. The date of her death was 8 weeks after the policy was taken out. Badge continued. Catherine was 38 years old. No prior health conditions documented. Chun looked up sharply. You're saying I'm saying there's a pattern? Badge said. Vulnerable widows with life insurance payouts, and Richard Morrison knows how to work the system. We need to pull Catherine's medical records, Chun said. Get a second look at cause of death. Already requested them, Badge replied. Judge Morrison's office is handling it. That's when Reaper's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, then at Badge. They found him. Mike's gambling den on the east side of town. Chin stood up. Let's go. Now, you might think this is where it gets violent, where 200 bikers descend on a gambling den and drag Richard out by his hair. That's not what happened. Chun went with 4 officers. Badge went along as civilian observer. Reaper and Ironside stayed at the school with Tyler. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. And justice required letting the system work when you forced the system to finally pay attention. At 7:47 p.m., Detective Chun and her team walked into Mike's gambling den. Richard Morrison was sitting at a poker table laughing with 3 other men, chips stacked in front of him. He'd won about $800 that night, was celebrating with bourbon on the rocks. He was wearing khakis and a button-down shirt. Had his Rotary Club pin on his collar. Looked like any other businessman unwinding after work. Richard Morrison, Chin said. He looked up, annoyed at the interruption. Stand up, please. Hands where I can see them. What? This is what's going on. The table went silent. Other patrons turned to look. Richard Dale Morrison, you're under arrest for felony child endangerment, theft by deception, fraud, and violation of an emergency protective order. You have the right to remain silent. Richard's face went from confusion to shock to rage in 3 seconds. This is insane. I haven't done anything. My stepson is a runaway. He's been making up lies. You can't just face down on the floor, Chin said. Now. 2 officers grabbed his arms. Richard struggled, started yelling. They forced him down, face scraping against the worn carpet, arms wrenched behind his back, handcuffs clicked. You're making a mistake, Richard shouted. I'm a respected businessman. I sponsor little league teams. I go to church. That kid is lying. Save it for your lawyer, Chin said. They hauled him up, walked him out past a gambling den full of witnesses. Out to the patrol car where lights flashed red and blue against the night. Badge stood to the side recording everything on his phone. Documentation, evidence, procedure. Richard saw him. Who the hell are you? Someone who cares about Road King's son, Badge said calmly. You're done, Morrison. Back at the school, Ironside gathered the chapters together. 190 people in the parking lot waiting. All in favor of establishing a trust fund for Tyler Kowalski and his mother? Ironside asked. Food, housing, medical care, school supplies, whatever they need until the insurance money is recovered. For a moment, nothing. Just the sound of wind and distant traffic. Then every single hand went up. Not a moment's hesitation. Not a single dissenting voice. 190 people voting unanimously to help a woman and child they'd never met because that's what Road King would have wanted. And Road King was family. The trust fund hit $23,000 by midnight. Chapters from across Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. Brothers who'd ridden with Marcus. Brothers who'd never met him but understood what it meant to protect family. $5 here, $50 there. One chapter in Cleveland sent $2,000 in one check. By the end of the week, it would reach $42,000, but money was only part of what Tyler needed. Professor found the apartment. 2-bedroom place on Maple Street, 6 blocks from the high school. Ground floor, safe neighborhood. Landlord who'd been convinced by a visit from Ironside that taking a chance on Ellen and Tyler Kowalski was the right thing to do. First month's rent, last month's rent, security deposit, Professor said, handing Ellen the keys 3 days after Richard's arrest. All covered. You and Tyler move in today. Ellen broke down crying in the parking lot. Tyler stood beside her, one arm around his mother's shoulders, still not quite believing it was real. Doc took Tyler to Ridgeview Medical Center that same afternoon, sat with him through blood work, through the examination, through the lecture from the attending physician about refeeding syndrome and the careful nutritional plan Tyler would need to follow. Your hemoglobin is 9.2, the doctor said. Should be 13.5 to 17.5. You're severely anemic. We're starting you on iron supplements, but I need you to understand gaining weight too fast right now could cause heart complications. Small meals 6 times a day, high protein, and we monitor your labs weekly. Doc made sure Tyler had a calendar with every appointment marked. Made sure Ellen had Doc's personal cell number. Made sure the medical bills went to the trust fund, not to a family who couldn't pay them. You call me day or night, Doc told Tyler. Any concerns, any symptoms, anything. I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You call. Tyler nodded. He was still learning how to accept help. 8 months of surviving alone had taught him not to need anyone. Now he was learning that needing people wasn't weakness. It was being human. Badge handled the legal side. The emergency protective order became a permanent restraining order within a week. Richard wasn't allowed within 500 feet of Tyler, Ellen, the apartment, or the school. The school board held an emergency meeting on Tyler's expulsion. Professor attended. So did Ironside. So did 47 Hells Angels who sat quietly in the gallery, leather and patches, watching. Tyler Kowalski was defending another student from assault, Professor told the board. An assault that had been reported 4 times prior with no administrative action. Tyler did what the adults in this building failed to do. He protected someone who couldn't protect himself. And you expelled him for it while the actual aggressors received detention. Superintendent Thornton tried to argue policy, tried to say zero tolerance meant no exceptions. Judge Morrison attended that meeting, too. She wasn't on the board, but she made her presence known. Zero tolerance without discretion isn't justice. She said it's cowardice disguised as policy. And if this board doesn't reinstate that boy with a formal apology, I will personally ensure the county prosecutor reviews this case for failure to report child abuse because multiple staff members documented concerns about Tyler's welfare and did nothing. The vote was unanimous. Tyler was reinstated, effective immediately. The expulsion was removed from his record, and the 3 students who'd assaulted Danny Peterson were suspended pending investigation. Tyler started back to school on Monday, 8 days after he'd sat down at that table in the courtyard. Torch drove him that first morning, pulled up to the school on his Harley, Tyler on the back, wearing a new jacket the club had bought him. Not leather, not patched, just a warm winter coat that actually fit. You got this, Torch said as Tyler climbed off. And if anyone gives you trouble, you let me know. Tyler walked into Ridgeview Regional High School with his head up for the first time in 8 months. Kids stared. Everyone had heard the story by now. Local news had covered it. Social media had exploded. And the sight of 190 motorcycles outside the school was something nobody would forget. But something had changed in how they looked at him. Jake from the football team stopped Tyler in the hallway. Hey man, I am sorry about before about not letting you sit with us. That was messed up. Tyler nodded. Didn't quite know what to say. Spot's always open now, Jake added. If you want it. In homeroom, Sarah from the Honor Society approached his desk. I heard you're back. Do you need notes from the classes you missed? I can make copies. Even Mrs. Cage stopped Tyler after 3rd period. She couldn't quite meet his eyes. Tyler, I wanted to apologize for what I said. For not helping when I should have. Tyler wanted to be angry, wanted to throw all that rejection back in their faces. But he was too tired for anger, and his dad had taught him something else. People make mistakes. What matters is what they do after. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I appreciate that." The tap-scrape sound of his footsteps was gone now. Reaper had taken him to get new shoes 2 days earlier. Proper sneakers that fit with soles that didn't flap. Tyler had tried to argue about the cost. "Your dad bought me dinner at least 100 times over 18 years, Reaper had said. "This is the least I can do." Richard Morrison's trial happened fast. With the recorded confession, the financial documents, the medical evidence, and testimony from neighbors and teachers, his lawyer advised him to take a plea deal. 8 years in state prison, no eligibility for parole for 5 years, felony child endangerment, theft by deception, fraud, grand theft. The insurance money was frozen pending civil court proceedings. Ellen filed suit with an attorney the club connected her to, someone who worked pro bono for cases like this. It would take time. Legal processes always did. But Badge was confident the money would eventually be recovered. "And Catherine Morrison's case is being reopened," Badge told Tyler and Ellen one afternoon at the apartment. Medical examiner found some inconsistencies in the original autopsy report. Pneumonia doesn't usually kill a healthy 38-year-old that quickly. They're looking deeper. Ellen's hand shook as she held her coffee cup. "He could have killed me, too. If I'd gotten sick, if something had happened." "But it didn't," Reaper said gently. "He'd stopped by with groceries, something he did twice years yet if he chose that path. But it was black leather, worn soft with Road King's name embroidered inside the collar. Your dad wore this for 15 years, Ironside said. Wanted you to have it when you're ready. Tyler held the vest like it was made of glass, buried his face in the leather, and breathed in. And for just a second, he could smell motor oil and Old Spice and something that was just Dad. Thank you, he whispered. Reaper appeared beside them, helped Tyler into the vest. It was too big still. Tyler needed another 20 pounds and a few more years, but he wore it anyway. And when he walked back out to the main room wearing his father's vest over his t-shirt, the entire club went quiet. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping, standing, and Tyler stood there overwhelmed and embarrassed and grateful all at once. To Road King, Ironside said, raising a soda can. No alcohol around the kid. To Road King, everyone echoed. And to his son, Reaper added, who's got his father's courage and his father's heart? Tyler couldn't speak past the lump in his throat, could only nod. This is Tyler's story, but it's not really about one boy or one club or one town in Ohio. It's about what happens when people decide that looking away isn't good enough anymore. Louise Hicks lives next door to an empty house now. Richard's house was sold to pay legal fees. She volunteers at the domestic violence shelter downtown, answering phones, listening to people who need help, finding the courage to leave. She tells anyone who will listen, I stayed silent once. Never again. Sandra Price started a support group at her new church for people recovering from spiritual abuse and religious manipulation. She tells her story often, how she let a predator hide behind a Bible and a smile, and how speaking up cost her community but saved her conscience. The Ridgeview School District implemented new mandatory reporting protocols. Staff members are now required to file official reports for any student showing signs of abuse or neglect with disciplinary action for those who fail to comply. They call it the Tyler Kowalski policy. And the Hells Angels Ridgeview chapter started something called Angels Watch, a program where they partner with schools to identify at-risk kids and connect them with resources. Not vigilante justice, just paying attention, just caring enough to help before tragedy strikes. 43 students have been helped through Angels Watch in the last 6 months. 43 kids who might have fallen through the cracks, who now have food, shelter, safety, and someone who believes them. If you believe that every child deserves a protector, comment, I stand with Tyler and subscribe, because what happens when we decide to care, when we decide to act instead of looking away, can restore your faith in humanity. Tyler will never be the same person he was before. Trauma changes you. 8 months of sleeping in a car, of being rejected and erased and starving leaves marks that don't fully heal. But healing doesn't mean returning to who you were. It means becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone who knows what it means to be seen, to be claimed, to be protected. And Tyler knows now what his father knew. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes family is the people who show up when everyone else walks away. There are Tylers everywhere. Kids sleeping in cars, going hungry in silence, being failed by the systems designed to protect them. Adults who look good in public while causing devastation in private. Neighbors who see bruises and hear screams and tell themselves it's not their business. You don't need 190 motorcycles to change a story like Tyler's. You just need to care enough to ask the uncomfortable questions, to pay attention when a child hesitates, to file the report even when it's easier not to be the person who sees someone and says, "You're safe now." Sometimes the scariest-looking person in a room, the one with scars and tattoos and leather, is exactly who you need because they know what it means to protect people who can't protect themselves. And sometimes the most dangerous person in a room is the one who looks respectable, who smiles for cameras and coaches Little League and teaches Bible study while planning how to let a child die in the cold. Evil wears ordinary faces. Monsters look like neighbors, but so do heroes. Tyler is 17 now. Still lives with his mom on Maple Street. Still wears his dad's dog tags outside his shirt. He volunteers at Angel's Watch, talking to kids who are going through what he went through, telling them they're not alone. He's planning to study social work in college. Wants to be a counselor, help kids who've been failed by the